Animal Tales. Author is Mary Hyland. Some animals have tails and some don't. Do you have one? Not anymore, but before you were born, you had one. Tails come in all kinds of shapes, colors, and sizes. They help animals do many things: move on land, swim, warn others, steer, hold on to things, keep warm, balance, fly, attract a mate, and defend themselves. There are animals that begin their life with a tail, but lose it by the time they grow up. This is true for most frogs and toads. They lay their eggs in the water. When the eggs hatch, the frog and toads, tadpoles, have tails. What do you think their tails help them do? Before a tadpole comes out of the water to live on land, it grows 4 legs. Its tail is absorbed by its body and eventually disappears. Some animals use their tails to signal other animals, like themselves. Sometimes the sign means danger, run. White-tailed deers have tails that are brown on the top and white underneath. When a deer senses danger, it lifts its tail up so that the white hairs on the bottom of the tail show. The deer waves its tail like a flag as it runs away, warning others deers of the danger. A beaver uses its tail to warn other beavers of danger. It slaps its tail on the water, which makes a loud sound that tells others beavers to swim to a safe place. A beaver uses its tail for other things as well: to store fat, to steer when it's swimming, and as a prop to rest against when it stands on its hind feet to cut down a tree. Have you ever smelled a striped skunk spray? It smells pretty bad. Spraying is a skunk's way of defending itself, but it doesn't spray unless it fears for its life. If the enemy predator is approaching, the first thing a striped skunk does is stamp its front teeth on the ground. This tells the predator not to come any closer. If it keeps coming, the skunk will lift its tail, which is a signal that it's about to spray. If this doesn't stop the predator, the skunk turns around so that his rear end is pointing at the approaching predator. It then sprays this oily liquid that will not only make the predator smell bad for days and days, but will sting its eyes and give the skunk a chance to escape. Some animals, like the Virginia possum, have a tail that can hold on to things. Pedicel. Opossums use their tail as a 5th leg. When a possum climbs a tree, it grabs the tree trunk and branches with its tail as well as its feet. It also carries leaves and other nesting material in its tail. If a tail is big and bushy enough, it can be used as a blanket to keep the animal warm when it is cold outside. In the winter, foxes and coyotes sleep out in the open where it can be very windy and cold. When they go to sleep, they curl up and wrap their tails around them, tucking their noses down into their tails. A bird tail is like a boat rudder. It helps the bird to steer when it is flying. Without tails, many birds would find it hard to take off, turn, land, and perch. Tails help the bird slow down as well as changing direction when they are flying. They keep birds balanced when they are perched on a branch. Tails help catch the wind, which lifts the bird high into the sky. Birds even spread out and display their tails to attract a male. This bald eagle is able to carry a big branch back to its nest because it can fly, and it can fly in the direction it wants to go because of its tail. Birds are not the only animals that use their tail to steer. Muskrats and beavers use their tail as rudders in the water. A muskrat tail is thin and covered with scales. The tail moves back and forth from side to side as a muskrat swims, both propelling and steering it. Some birds, including woodpeckers, have very stiff tails. They use their tails to brace themselves against tree branches and trunks while they're perched. Because the tail supports them, woodpeckers don't become too wobbly when they are drilling for insects in a tree or making a nest hole, cavity. Tails are used by many animals to protect themselves. A porcupine has sharp quills on its tail, as well as most of its body. These tail quills are shorter and thinner than most of the porcupine's quills and will disappear quickly into an animal if the animal comes in contact with them. Porcupines cannot shoot their quills. Often when cornered, a porcupine will flick its tail at its enemy. If the tail touches the attack animals, some of the quills will loosen and get stuck in the enemy's body, a very painful experience. Some insects have a tail-like structure at the tip of their abdomen. Female bees and wasps have stingers. Earwigs have pinchers, and female crickets have egg-laying tubes. Opsomore. The sharp stinger of the female worker honeybee is covered with tiny hooked barb. If a honeybee stings someone, the honeybee will die. It does not use its stinger unless it is very scared. The queen bee also has a stinger, but hers is more smooth, so she can sting more than once. She usually is mostly for laying eggs. An insect called the Taurus beetle uses its tail-like appendage to protect itself from predators while it is growing up. The young tortoise beetle puts its old shed skin as well as its poop onto the tail-like spines, anal fork, at the end of its body. Then it holds the spine over its back. This looks a bit like a little umbrella, and it protects the young beetle from predators that would like to eat it. And here are some other ones that you can, if you're interested in looking at, go ahead and look at it and see what you think. And this is about tail adaptations.